the remainder of June. So we are currently at, I guess it's June 8th onward. So we're all in different timelines. So take it as it resonates. If it's not your story, not your story. And how I do read the cards is I will read the main cards out. And then, of course, I've already pre-pulled clarifiers just because of the time factor. My readings do tend to go a little longer. So I'd love to be able to do it for 2.5 hours, but I think there's even a limitation on the cards for that as well. But regardless, let's just get right into it. So what I want to say here is that there is a lot of major arcana coming out for you, Cancer. We've got the Emperor, we've got the Star. We also have the Temperance card. Below that, of course, we also have the Ace of Cups, all of that. And then, of course, we've got some smaller ones, which are the Queen of Cups. We've got Seven of Cups, and then we've got the Four of Swords with all the clarifiers. So what I want to say there is the three main ones out that are obviously the major arcana would be the Emperor, the Star, the Temperance. Now, I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit in the read, and I don't want to keep pulling the cards back and forth, so you just have to kind of follow along a little bit with me. But as far as the Emperor goes, I would say this is the main card, and it's also the first card that came out. So the Four is all about a balance. The Four is also the Emperor, all about, calculated steps to a goal, someone who's trying to empower themselves. They're feeling a lot more confident, and certainly it is about making decisions from an authoritative position. So that does mean that you're starting to grasp some sense of where you're at, what your skill set is, or what it is that you want to learn. Even if you don't have a specific skill set, there's still something here that speaks to calculated steps to a goal. It's collected energy with this one. And anything regarding the Emperor could be also dealing with a father figure here as well for some of you, but overall this is focusing on long-term growth. Now there is something here about feeling a lot more established, feeling a lot more comfortable with oneself, that kind of thing. And again, that energy is wise energy. It is also something about controlling the self or having control over self. That could be feelings or however that resonates for you. We also have the Emperor, and again, there's also the Star, even though it's not the clarifier, but it does indicate more of a divine calling, sort of a divine opportunity, something that you were intended to take advantage of or expound on or explore. So there's also Aries energy coming through here. Aquarius is also strong. And again, you're coming through in the reading as more leadership oriented. So it's a leadership sort of energy. Doesn't mean you're necessarily in a position of power, other than it can be just a position of power over your life. So taking more responsibility for things in your life. So this is also a power of will. And that seems to be a great strength for you in this period. Because you're putting plans into action, there's more organization, and how things will turn out. You're, even in terms of anything related around your health, you will always be, or in this month, more oriented toward anything that's related around a systems or something hierarchical. So something, again, you could be also dealing with spirituality. If you're dealing with the spiritual aspect of things, it would be, for example, going to a church. If you're dealing with a health thing, it could be dealing with an institution or a medical or, hospitalization or whatever. If you're dealing with something that is in terms of a a business sort of, could be dealing with somebody who, again, has in a strong position of authority. But I feel for the amount of cards that are out here, for whoever this resonates for, there's a strong inkling toward healing energy and starting to head to become more self-sustaining in your private world, I would say. So I feel like at this space, this is where you're starting to create more opportunities for yourself by writing things out. Because the Emperor is all about structure and organization. Hi, Erin. But it's also trying to do things by way of systems. So, if you're organizing things, you're going to write down, what are my goals for, the 3-week period? What are my goals for July? What are my goals for August? And again, breaking it down into all the areas of, health, spirituality, and empowerment, or work and romance, finance, whatever. So there's a lot of energy around reasoning things out. So questioning your own thoughts. So if your thought came through as a negative, you're going to say, is that true 100% of the time, or is that just how I feel in the moment? It's that kind of thing. So you're really standing in a place where you're not weakening to your own thoughts. This is really a place where you're starting to feel like you've got more a lot more energy coming from a place of ready to, power up for action in some way. Do you feel like there, as I said, you're in that space of feeling a lot more confident about yourself. And in this energy, this is somebody who learns some lessons. This is somebody who is, honors tradition. This is also, mentoring or mastering something. So there's a lot of energy around leveling things up in some way. Now it is followed up by the Justice card. So I feel like overall, and again, I'll go through all the clarifiers. And sorry, the Empress was also separated. That's with the Six of Swords. That's another section of it. But overall, I do feel like your energy seems to be balancing out. So for the most part, there is a few, very slight back and forth sort of energies that indicate you might be dealing with some other areas that where you're not feeling as empowered, but again, for the most part, you are focused intent. So this is about following traditional treatments, therapies, anything like that. Anything that's going to be where there's some science behind it possibly, or you've done some research for something. It's things along that line. But again, it's very strongly focused intent, and it's realizing what it is that you want to be doing or, presenting in the world as. Okay, so we're moving into, and again, I'm going to go through all the cards and then we'll go through the clarifiers, but for the most part, we're just touching on. So we've got the star energy here. Now, the star energy is also feeling a lot more optimistic. It is Aquarius energy here as well, but it's also about, thinking about things in the future from a point of view where it's going to be paying off over the long term. So again, everything is starting to work the way it should. So whatever it is you're trying to manage, this is that energy of showing confidence, but you're starting to believe in your goals again, that things are back on track, and that you're somehow, the inner conflict is resolving in some way. So there's something here about more positive outlook. And again, it's more of a fulfilling promise. It's good fortune as well. But again, it's still coming from a place where there's new doors that are opening, new opportunities. But again, it's from a place where there is structure. So you're not doing something where you're just jumping in. This could be a new job for some of you, but that's coming through here. But it definitely shows that something is about to bear fruit. And again, the star fulfills promises. It's also the North Star. It's also, things along the line of spiritual, feeling more balanced. It's much more peaceful energy. And it certainly speaks to reaching higher potentials or your highest potential. So keep the faith, because this is a very driven, inspirational combination. So now you're being guided, to a destination with the Star card and with the Emperor. And it seems like it's a really good balance, because not only, again, is it's, there's healing energy with this, but there's also more confidence. So now those are major, big energies coming out. Now we're going to scoot to the Temperance card. So Temperance, of course, is another major arcana, and this is all about, again, more balance, more healing. Your journey is protected spiritually. There's a lot that's coming in here that kind of speaks to some very significant changes for you in this period. So I would feel like, you are on a personal path. It's a spiritual path for a lot of you. And again, it's very strong, focused attention. It feels like you are also really finding a very slow, methodical way of moving through the energy. So you're balancing things out, and there's a lot here that kind of speaks to that personal path being one that's going to bring you harmony and peace. Now, harmony and peace, because without the challenges, we don't grow. So we always will be tested. But right now, you're kind of moving into a space of finding your inner peace, what makes you happy, which will allow you to, combine that. When you do go through stressful times, you can reflect back on, when was I in that flow? When was I in that space where I felt, and use that as a springboard. So again, it's a lot of self-discovery, but it's also in that area of making compromises, willing to negotiate things, even with yourself. Trying to find a way, you're just in that space where you're surrendering to things. So you're kind of removing the ego out of the way here, which means you're looking at things and saying, I accept that this is where I am right now. It doesn't mean that's where I have to stay or where I'm going to be. It's just where I am right now. So, and able to kind of, you're in that space of communicating with your higher power to kind of move you out of a place that you feel like you've worn thin, where there's not a lot that seems balanced. You're moving into more of a self-discovery energy. Now we also have that energy of, it's a water sign energy here as well, but it definitely speaks to more nurturing, and this can be you coming through in your reading, but it's more of a receptive energy. So it's allowing something in. It's sentimental, it's traditional, a lot of strong tradition coming in, but it also speaks to great personal growth. And so there's something here about, you could be quite intuitive yourself with this particular card. But again, it's Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio that's coming through. But overall, I feel like you're starting to feel more comfortable with yourself, especially with the other combination of cards. And there's a lot more intuitive hits that are coming through. And it just feels like overall, there's a lot more nurturing back to you and possibly nurturing to others here as well. We haven't done the clarifiers yet. But overall, I feel like you're happiest working from that intuitive place, from that space, where you're surrounded by things that make you feel home in some way, whatever home represents to you. So again, your emotions also have a very strong, powerful impact on your health. So if you were blocked emotionally, this would be, showing up as places with trouble spots being around the feet, your lymph areas slowing down so you don't heal as fast. You go down, you're getting sicker or whatever. So this is where those trouble spots are for you. So if you're emotionally blocked, again, that's how it would, and it's also represents reproductive areas, reproductive system, digestion. So on the outside of this, the card would also indicate would benefit from, massage, acupuncture, aerobics, exercise, moderation in your diet. And certainly if you're stressed out, there's also that indicator that, you want to be able to address those areas, and that is what this card is all about. It's so you're actually taking a look at everything as a whole. So it's spiritual, but it's also meditation and healing and working with possibly animals and children as well for some of you. But either way, I just feel like there's a lot around building up your self-esteem. It's stronger self-esteem, it's more dependability, and it's about knowing what you bring to the table. It's moving towards stability. And again, we'll go through all the other cards following that, but that's where that is. Now, the smaller cards out here are the Six of Swords, and I did indicate that you are moving into a space now where there's a lot that is coming through that seems to be around transition. So you're transitioning, and there's movement, there's communication that might be improving here as well, maybe just in the beginning of this period. But it's like there's something here where the situation is improving. The transition is at a turning point here with the Six of Swords. So you're being pushed into a new direction. You're being prepared to distance yourself from the past, or the negatives and the things that you were thinking were not, were not advantageous to you. So again, what you're doing here is you're starting to, you want new places as far as like fresh faces or new parks or whatever it is to see. You want to see new things. There's something here about you planning to restructure all of that, including your finances here as well. And even with your finances, it's like looking at what is my priority? Can I delegate? I'm just going to use a random number here, $20 toward a TFSA or a RSP, and what is it that I can put into my learning or knowledge, or can I take a course? Like, it's you really structuring things out that way. So there is something here about things not happening overnight. Even in terms of health, it does feel like there's an evaluation period before something kind of establishes or eases the tension around it. So it doesn't happen overnight, whatever it is for health, but it will resolve. Now we're into the Four of Swords. So the Four of Swords is that card. Like, again, you've got a few swords here, but this is, again, still about healing, but it's still about laid back, introspective. Still in that place of feeling a little bit more isolated, and it certainly does speak to releasing things as well. It's a period of restoration, quiet contemplation, it's all of those things. So it's where you're just slowing down, and it's progress, not perfection, so it's progress that you're making in a space where you are internally processing things and starting to make the plans. Now everything is, because when you deal with the Emperor, this is somebody who lays out the plan. They don't keep it in their head. They lay out the plan, they write things down. What are my goals for this month? What are my goals for the next month? What are my financial goals? What are my health goals? It's that kind of thing. So there's a lot more organization, like I said, dealing with, and there's more repetitive behavior that comes out here, because I did have the Eight of Pentacles that came out as well with the Star. So that's repetitive behavior, really work something, chiseling it away. So either way, you're still in a little bit of a place of inactivity in this month, And again, there could be even a level of escaping into your fantasy world to some degree with the Seven of Cups. But I feel like, you're at the end cycle with the Ten of Swords. So whatever was a difficult time for you, difficult words, difficult like betrayals, deserted, all of that stuff, feeling alone, I feel like you're going to see things start to open up because, like I said, the Four of Swords is taking that time to sort of pamper yourself, get more sleep. It's those things. It's a period of activity that is more about, it's not going to last forever. It's what you need to do to sort of heal the body, because a lot of what the body is a reflection of the mind as well. So it's just something here about taking that time to read, recuperate, study, educate yourself, whatever it is, with imagery, meditation, whatever that is for you, anything that feeds your soul, because there's a lot here with spirituality, but a lot here as well in terms of like you're following your northern star, your North Star. So a lot of emotional healing still at play, but again, there's just a lot here that's still restorative. That's coming back to you. Now, the last one's out. Actually, I think I got all of those, except for the Seven of Cups. We'll finish that part, and then we go into the clarifiers and get into things a little deeper. Now, the Seven of Cups, again, there's a little bit of confusion that's still sort of around you. You're not sure of where your direction is yet. It's sometimes not about being sure, because it's more of an adventure. It's more about how do I, explore who I am in the world, learn to be the best version of myself. And I'm going to read something as well later about that Osho had to say as well in regards to that, which I thought was very interesting. But either way, this is about big decisions that are coming. And again, of course, with the Seven of Cups and the Ten of Swords, I feel like, whatever the confusion was around the past here, again, there's a lot of fantastical ideas or things that are right under your nose here. And it's like you're going to choose an option to kind of break you out of this narrow down the choices is what I see here. But again, I think whatever you tried in the past perhaps didn't go as you had expected with Ten of Swords here, and there was maybe too much vacillation about what you should do. But overall, I feel like, you still have to be a little bit careful and strategize in this energy, but it definitely speaks to being able to manifest with a strong intention, because that was what was coming out. Okay, so now we're going into clarifiers, and let's go back to the Emperor. So now we're into the energy, and the Emperor is also clarified by the Justice card. Now, the Justice card, as I mentioned before, is all about being in balance, things being fair. For some of you, this might be something around a court case and things, dealing with that would be turning in your favor for sure. It's going to be a fair judgment. But the Justice card is all about, even a karmic sort of situation. But I also feel like this is still energy about being detached and impartial. So this is where the compromise comes in. It's in several of the other cards here, and especially when it's clarified to the Emperor. So there's something here about, the system is now writing things for you. So it doesn't mean that there won't be challenges, but I feel like in the energy of the Emperor, you are now in that space of, I'm not seeing the obstacles as obstacles. I'm seeing them as challenges. And how do I overcome that challenge? If I can't do it that way, I'll do it this way. And if I can't do it this way, I'll do it the other way. It really is all about taking on the responsibility and figuring out the nuances. So again, somebody's always done it before. See, there's, in the path of giants, right? So there's still something there to be said of the Emperor is the person here who is making a decision based on, legal or karmic justice and social justice. And again, making decisions, balancing the books. It's something here about, anything that's going to help you to deal with the situation fairly. That's what you're looking at. So you're starting to bring back into balance your own life, really, is what I see there. So there's a lot of rules to follow when you go into this, and you're trying to get a clear picture of what it is that you want to accomplish. And certainly, again, this could be for some of you going into the justice or going into a legal field or legal aspect of things as well. But either way, it's still that energy of I'm okay, slowing it down, and not taking friction until I figure out the passage. You know what I mean? You're in a space of really trying to understand your place in the grand scheme of things. So the other part of it is the Emperor, the Justice, and again we had the Star, and we also had the Eight of Pentacles. So spiritually and psychologically, I would say this is really symbolizing integrity and hope. And again, the Temperance was there as well. So like I said, it's disciplined effort. So you're actually putting some effort out to create all this balance. But again, it's creating a structure for yourself. So again, this could be a job coming through for some of you here, but there's more hope and there's more meaning and there's more confidence, and you're really starting to believe in yourself. Now, if we were to take this from Osho's lens of life, it would be more along the lines of, the Emperor and the Justice is kind of focusing on that Zen-like awareness of things, because Osho speaks of balance between your inner self as well as your outer accountability. So it's like the Eight of Pentacles shows that mastery of things, coming through because of a repetition, a habit, and that's what you're trying to do, is you're creating more of a daily habit. I wake up at this time, I exercise, I do this, I look for courses or whatever it is, or I start to do my projects or whatever it is that you want to learn and build on. That's what I see you doing now, and it's creating more of an inner accountability as well as an outer accountability. So again, it's putting things into practice, and it's what your daily habits are. The repetition of focus is intention. The next cards out were the cards of Temperance, and again that was followed up by Ace of Cups, so that's a really good combination there. So this is again more of that energy of emotionally integrating of yourself that you felt were kind of waning or not feeling whole. So it's like a gentle, compassionate way. It's a gradual transition toward emotional alchemy, if you will, bringing all of the parts of the self that might have been fragmented, disconnected, things you didn't like about yourself. You're now realizing that's a part of the human journey. It's okay to feel the anger. It's okay to feel the frustration. It's okay to feel the discomfort, because this is now bringing a renewed emotional awareness. So there's something here of a deep healing energy. And again, it does suggest movement away from any kind of emotional turmoil, things of that sort. And it's almost like you're just accepting the natural part of life, and that's what gives life meaning, because you are recognizing and distancing yourself from the negative thought patterns. You're starting to do that in this period. And so by doing so, this is where you're aligning with teaching, yourself how to move inward and start to learn flow. So you're kind of transcending that duality, that inner and outer world, and you're you're embracing the silence, the things that you don't know you're not so uncomfortable with now, because you are surrendering to a degree. It's more of an acceptance. It's not saying this is my identity. It's I'm accepting that this is where I am right now, but I am moving ahead. I'm still taking action. Now, there are still work on, of course, because we did have that energy of, bringing this forward, Queen of Cups, 10 of Wands, 2 of Wands, 9 of Wands, 5 of Swords. Now, the 5 of Swords is, again, some of the energy. You're still suggesting that there are some kind of ego battles that you're going on. Well, why, you're saying things to yourself like, why am I not, moved ahead further? Why is things taken so long? So there's still a little bit of mental struggle, but that is not the main card out. That is in the background. So your main card out was the Queen of Cups and the 10 of Wands. It's been a long burden. Now, you also had the 10 of Swords and the 10 of Wands. You've completed 2 different cycles here that seem to be emotionally the burden. Emotional burdens seem to be where the biggest release is going to be for you this month. But as I said, we had that Hanged Man energy that came out there. Sorry, trying to find where I had that card. But the Hanged Man energy was also here. And that's where it's the pause. It's sort of the pregnant pause before you move forward. So it's learning to surrender control to things. But it's also accepting that stillness, and it's okay. You're okay with that alone at this time, because the 10 of Wands is the burdens of overcommitment or taking on too much where you weren't able to sort of deal with it. So there's something here about, thinking that you have to do it all. You have to be successful. You have to have this in place. Everything has to be. But now it's you reframing those burdens as choices, and you're choosing based on values. So again, the Hangman is pure surrender. The ego dissolves when you stop fighting and you simply allow. And I want to just add, there's something here that I thought was kind of interesting, and I have my little book here handy, but he was talking about anger, sadness, and depression being of the same tree. And it was something like this. I'll just kind of read some of the fine points here. But he says anger is a natural part of life. It comes, it goes. Repress it, it becomes a problem. And so then when it's a problem, you keep accumulating it. And the question is, it starts to either when you don't allow it to come and go freely, then you become tied to it. And by virtue of being tied to it, what I mean is you are not just sometimes angry, you just remain angry. It's like you remain in rage and you wait for somebody to kind of provoke you. And when you don't explode, it becomes depression when you internalize it. So I'm not saying explode. I'm saying that there is the other way. He speaks about dealing with those issues is you don't wait for something to be later on. Repressed anger it's like a temporary madness. So something happens when it's beyond your control, and then you say, if I could have controlled it, I would have, but suddenly it was overflowing, and then it was beyond you. Do anything, you feel helpless, and it just comes out. So a person may not be angry, but moves and lives in anger. That's what that kind of person would be. So there's two types of people. Again, you can watch faces and you see them day to day. And it talks about, the whole of humanity is divided into two types of people. There's the sad type, who will look very sad, dragging somehow. And then there's the angry type, and they're bubbling with mess, ready to explode. Any excuse is a good one. So if you watch your own behavior, then you find out, are you the sad one? Are you the angry one? If a boss makes you angry at work, you know that you can't be angry with them because they have the power to make you lose the job. So then by virtue of that, you cannot become angry, so you go on smiling and then you become sad. So the energy has become inactive, but it's also building. So here's where he kind of said there's sort of a transformative energy around it. He says people enjoy anger, and when they do, it's sadness. It's sadness when you feel something has been done to you. And that's the passings. And when you're feeling like you're on the receiving end. So the thing is happiness is kind of a learned behavior because you couldn't retaliate, you could not react. So in anger, you start to feel better. After a big bout of anger, you feel more relaxed, feels good, you feel alive, you can do things. But of course, you cannot do things because, again, if it's your boss or somebody that's very close to you and you don't want to lose that relationship, then you end up redirecting it onto other people. So here's, he says everybody has to do something, rather than torture your cat, your dog, or people that or whatever it is. He says people, there's some that, he makes a reference to people in India where there's the untouchables, which is considered sort of the lowest class. But he also talks about the Brahmins and how they're very angry. And, they look for any small thing to get angry. And anger and sadness, again, are two faces of the same energy repressed. So ordinary anger, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm almost done this. And then we go back into the read. There's not anything wrong with it. It's just that because people are holding on to their emotions, controlling, it's just not good for you. And so what ends up happening is you see every gesture, you can see it in the way that they walk, that kind of thing, and how they relate. So that's when you end up with a lot of rage, and you get these, people and mental health issues, crisis world, and all kinds of things there. So he talks about, sorry, I'm just looking for the main section here. It should be more of a flow, You don't protest anger. Anger is human. It's simply a situation in which you were provoked. You are alive, so you respond to it. But it's not a situation you can accept. So this is the situation where you want to say, no, it's a protest and it's nothing wrong with it. But he says, in the heat of the moment, whatever the anger was. Sorry, give me 1 second here. It was more of a ripple, and then it became a wave, and now no more. So you're not going to carry it. So basically, it's allowing you to flow with the feeling. Yes, I'm angry at what they said. I'm not going to personalize it. I'm not going to look at the person and look to retaliate or insult. I'm not going to hold it back. I'm just going to redirect the energy. And again, that's where you can do the body exercise or whatever it is, or something creative. But again, it's more about a momentary flare up instead of hanging on to it, identifying it, add a bunch of thoughts to it, because he's not against anger, but accumulated anger starts to work against you, and then it starts to kind of affect you on a physical level. And then again, it can diseases and all the rest of it. So overall, I'm just looking for our last little section because I thought there was a section here I thought that was interesting. It kind of speaks to not living in the moment. We're always living for the future self. We're always looking for, I'll be happier when this happens. I'll be happier when I'm, married or have a relationship, or I have a lot of money, or, I'm very successful and I get all of these accolades, whatever. But he says what ends up happening is you're never really happy, because you end up being, if you lost all of the money, then you would hate yourself, so it's more along the lines of living in the moment. Find something each day that you enjoy, that you wanted to learn, that makes you happy. Just something. Yes, you have to live. Yes, you have to go to a job, but find a little bit of time to do something that helps you to, whether that's meditation or whatever, but it has to be something that is not living in the tomorrow. It's got to be something that helps you to live in the now. Because the thing is, he says, when you go to things like the churches and those kinds of things, which are great, but also sometimes you have to be open to those things. So if you're just there showing up, not really trying to understand things, then nothing really comes of that. You don't really gain from the experience, because you're not making yourself, you're not living in that reality. You're just presenting, you're just showing up. So the idea is that, even in poverty, they actually did some studies, he says, where the man who lives in poverty never goes against his dreams. It always brings enthusiasm for tomorrow, because they're hopeful. They believe that things will be better. This dark period is already passing soon, so there will be light. But the situation has changed. So there's something here of depression and those things being epidemic now. And again, he says, when a man is poor, he has an appetite. A rich man has no appetite, no hunger. And so, again, sometimes when you lose your why am I doing this? When you have everything, or when you have nothing, you're more motivated. So think of it that way. When you come from an egoless place, the world is your oyster. I guess I kind of went about that in a very roundabout way. Anyway, okay, getting back to it. Hangman and Knight of Pentacles, slow-moving energy. Eight of Wands, next to that is very quick energy. So what I feel is happening there, and again, it started out with the Hanged Man. You are slowly starting to awaken. You're slowly starting to move into this space of, again, you're not fighting against what's happening. You're starting to structure a plan and move and develop more confidence, like I said. There is more energy around you, having a lot more of a drive or passion to something. So again, this is slow, steady, patient energy. It's reliable energy. It's the person who shows up and does, A, B, and C, and D, does a step. So, you've already learned how to tap into this energy, is what I would say here. And I feel like that's going to help build more of a solid foundation for you. There's a lot of disciplined energies coming in here. And again, there's still the emotional, intuitive energy here as well. But I feel like you were also in that space of, caring deeply about the work. That's important to you. Caring deeply about that you want to do with the Queen of Cups. You feel burdened, or you're unclear, but because that Two of Wands energy shows up, this tells me that, yeah, you're drained, but you're ready for possibility. And there's plans and expansion. There's a decision point coming up ahead here. And I feel like you're aligning with that now. So you're also starting to question, what are the things that are draining me? How do I get my energy back? It's things like that. And again, you're creating a structured plan, writing it down, because when you keep things in your head, that drains you even more. But there's something here about returning to your values, reflecting on what truly matters to you. It's not the all or nothing thinking of, I have to do it all. You're now reframing it and willing to go one step at a time, work on one area until you can work on the next area, and so on. Now, when I look at the energy around the Four of Swords, sorry, just going back here a little bit to, because there was something here with the, yeah, there it is. Okay, so the energy around the Four of Swords is also energy around relationships, because that was specifically asked. So again, there's something of a pause. You're withdrawing because you need the emotional rest. You're trying to be good to yourself so that you can be good to someone else. If you don't know what you like, nobody else is going to be able to fill that big gaping hole. Yes, it's nice to be seen, but if the other person doesn't feel like you're doing the same for them, it's not about attention. It's also about, having respect for the other based on their what they come to the table with. So if you see somebody's quite passionate about something and you can support that, they want to be able to do the same for you. So finding out what it is what makes you passionate about, and what you legitimately like about yourself, that kind of thing, and building on that. So again, because the Four of Swords is the pause and the Hanged Man, it's time for reflection, not decision making yet. But with the Eight of Wands, it does indicate that there is going to be a rapid change, but not yet. It's building right now. So we also have, again, emotionally, you're exhausted here. Certainly it does, you need the solitude to recalibrate. There is a certain discomfort in that loneliness or disconnection, but allow that discomfort. It's only temporary. And then once you reframe what it is that you're looking for, so reframing failure or reframing solitude not as failure, it's the inner work that you needed to do. So even when you reflect to Osho, this is a gestation period. It's letting the old dissolve before something really authentic emerges. Who is the authentic you? Because the old self is, that's no longer where you're sitting anymore. So if we were to look at some of the astrological signs here, again, probably around June 8th to the 15th, I feel like that's where you're reflecting and rebalancing. The main astrological signs would probably be in around the Aries, and the major arcana, of course. It's going to be the Emperor, Aries, Justice, Libra, Star, Aquarius, Temperance is Sagittarius, Empress, Taurus, Libra, Man, Pisces. That's what I would say is kind of the main energies out there. Again, Queen of Cups is also the Cancer card as well, but most of those are the ones that I see as the main players. So again, there's something here about this month, and this is your birthday month, so happy birthday. But this is, if your sun sign is Cancer, there's something about being more influential emotionally and energetically, and there's a desire for emotional safety, very strong, and this is where your authenticity grows. So it's really getting a sense of who you are and what you want and what you value and what your belief systems are, which seems to be around family, home, nurturing, seems to be the central focus. And again, there's going to be some kind of a shift where you might feel some tension between security and movement, because there's something here that kind of speaks to, I'm getting out of my comfort zone now, so am I okay with, it's just that uncomfort for a little bit. But it is linked to your inner discipline and your emotional boundaries. And again, there's a lot of surrender that's going on here. I do feel like I said, communication and clarity is going to sharpen probably mid-June. So you might get some inner voices or insightful dreams or something like that kind of activates you in some way. And that's where the star energy and the healing comes in. And then it's where you get downloads and wisdom. Now, I also had, I like your Casey, and I made sort of a kind of a ref to, even on that basis, what it is that would be emphasized here. And I feel like what's emphasized here is, spiritual and karmic choices where the healing is taking place. The soul is now choosing the path, and it's choosing the path through the emotions, the physical, it's your soul growth. And I do feel like mind is the builder. That's what Edgar Casey said. Mind is the builder, physical is the result, and spirit is the life. So there's something there again where you're aligning to that journey. Mind is the builder, which is the Eight of Pentacles, Two of Wands, Five of Swords. So it suggests that your mental focus is shaping your reality. So whatever's happening to you right now is because of the thoughts that you keep. And again, there is thoughts that where you're the architect of your thoughts, and you can actually build something of the life that you want, thinking in a way that helps you to become stronger. So spirit as the life, which is the Star, Temperance, and Hanged Man. That's where you've got that deep spiritual shift. So it's the higher self, it's your soul contract, things just sort of regroup. And there's also soul groups and relationship healing, which is sort of matching the cards of the Four Swords, Five of Swords, Six of Swords. So you might be working through past life patterns here in current relationships, and you need distance to gain the clarity. So again, June 8th to the 15th, something about rest and reflection. 16th to the 22nd is more healing and alignment. 23rd to the 30th is where you're rebuilding and there's more action. Now, again, the advice is stay anchored in your values, not your feelings or your thoughts. What it is that's important to you, not what your feelings are or your thoughts, because your feelings and thoughts can be skewed based on moment to moment how things impact you. You could be driving down the road, ticks you off, and then you're angry. Should all of the rest of the day and your feelings and thoughts be based on that? No, you want to stay in your power, which is what are your value. If you're headed to work, you stay on track and you get there. It's things like that. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to escape things for a while, but again, it's okay to be, uncomfortable as well. So it's like, instead of saying I should do more, it's, starting to say kinder things to yourself. Let go of control, because soul grows not by doing more, but by becoming more aware. Trust that pause is sacred. And you might even start journaling or something here as well, as, practicing when you have a negative thought, how do you turn it around? What would you say? And then write that down. But either way, there's something here again about, there's something here about, use that time of waiting, not to worry, but to align. It's a pause, it's delay, it's a surrender, and it's an incubation of the authentic you, getting clear on what your values are. So again, it's an inner alignment. So, avoid the fear or urgency, because use that stillness to connect through prayer, meditation, nature, whatever it is for you. And look at the conflict, not with blame, but with self-reflection and forgiveness. What am I learning about my soul, through this relationship or through this situation? How do I become the most authentic me because of the negatives or the things that I went through? Again, in your patience, which is that Knight of Pentacles and the Temperance card and the Ten of Wands, patience is a spiritual muscle. So trust that it's slow and steady growth. While it may not be externally obvious, balancing effort comes with rest. So carry only what you can carry at this time. Choose in the heart space out of love, not out of obligation or ego. Do things because it helps you to grow. So spirit is the life. This is what Edgar Cayce said. Spirit is the life, mind is the builder, physical is the result. So again, when you choose to dwell mentally, manifest in the outer world and also in the physical world, it will start to, you're not in harmony with your physical body. So that disconnect can turn, can become health issues. So either way, I just feel like you are at a space of an emotional gateway or an opening of some sort. So it's something about that. I would still say, this is healing through emotional honesty, but not resistance. Don't fight with your feelings. It's okay that you were angry about a situation. It's okay that things were, didn't seem fair. But now you're at that space where you're like, okay, maybe this person's going through a bad day. Maybe this job, he doesn't know any other way of, communicating than him, not on you. Like, you start to reframe things. And so you're cleansing your thoughts. And this is where you don't dwell on things, because you know what you want to become as you learn these lessons. So it's seeking soul growth over control. Releasing through love helps you to realign. So again, when you're aligned with your values, it can manifest around you in a more loving way. So again, it's something that you would just sort of say to yourself that is more, how do I become present in this awareness? How do I, be rooted in being, not becoming? Like, enjoy the moment, enjoy this space versus who you think you have to be, because you'll become that over time from your. So you want to stop becoming someone, just be. Don't force the healing, get clear, be productive, take the pause, trust the emptiness. Just because things are quiet now doesn't mean you won't have other later. It's just you need to regroup with you before you can really get out there and then start to practice, who this new self is. So it's something about stepping your own way. And if there is a conflict that arises, it's also observe it, don't engage in it. Become more of a watcher. So there's something here, like I said, the real courage is to be vulnerable. You are not the mind, you are the watcher. Vulnerability is your strength in this month. So what I mean by that is let loving feelings, more authentic, come through, even if things feel uncertain. You don't need to protect your heart from things that you believe to be true and that you value. Even if somebody and everybody disagrees with it, if you're in alignment with who you are, it doesn't matter, because you know that you'll have to continue. People like to put us into boxes, and when they put us into boxes, it's because it's safest for them. They feel more comfortable accepting you in this particular light. But if you're not comfortable being in that box, you need to be true to you. So it's really not important to self-sacrifice that way. So again, you're not trying to organize the perfect, you're just trying to organize your life to take the next step and then the next step. Be aware of where your mind spins off. Don't chase perfection or who you think how much needs to be accomplished. It's returning to the present moment, but still planning. So it's more about finding stillness in the watching of the mind. So you're not following the mind, but you're watching the mind and what comes in. And again, questioning in line with my values. Do I believe that family units are important to me? Do I believe we live in a perfect world? How do I accept the world as an imperfection? It's things like that. So it's, knowing your questions. Now, there is also something, and just to sort of recap it all, that kind of speaks to its strategic action. You're feeling more personal power. There's more emotional mastery here. You're practical, it's momentum driven, and it certainly does speak to you using an intelligent approach to sort of figure your way through this. Don't wait for life to happen, make it happen. And it's also things about, creating an identity shift. Who do you want to be, and how do you live up to that? And it's a becoming. It's not, every day you're becoming more and more of that person that you want to be. So it's standing the lens of your belief systems, your self-talk. What are your peak states? When do you do your best? Or are you creative? Are you somebody who is physically able to endure things? Do you like, do you like kind of engaging socially? Like, it's kind of knowing what your attributes are as your strong points and trying to tweak and hone in on the others so that you can get in the world and get ahead. But again, there's something about breathing, moving the body, physiologically changing your energy here, breaking the pattern inertia or over-analysis, because that's the Four Swords and the Hanged Man, and kind of setting a ritual, which is I wake up, I do a cold shower, I listen to music, I reset my focus, I meditate, I see a glowing blue ball or whatever, or blue light. Everything that you need is within yourself now. And I feel like, again, where the focus goes, energy flows. That's a lot of, that's been said, that's been put out there quite a bit. So raise your standards, change your rituals, because right now you're going through some kind of an identity shift. And again, there's the Empress here with the Six of Swords. There's some kind of a transition going on, could be a figure here as well. But you're upgrading your identity. You're not the person you were trying to be. You're disciplining yourself. But it's also, you're saying, I am disciplined. So you're trying to lock in daily rituals, because that will reflect the identity of who you're becoming. So again, your morning routines, your nutrition, your planning, all of those things are your identity statement. And sometimes you need to read it aloud. This is who I'm becoming, and write it down. So even if it gets messy or you don't every day, we all have days where we feel stuck or emotionally drained or whatever, then the next day you get there and do it again. So again, you're getting your own feedback faster, and then you adjust accordingly. So use the pain as pleasure and use that as a leverage. So your 10 of Wands, that 10 of Wands, the 10 of Swords, this is a chance to reconnect with your purpose and your feeling. People, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That was what Anthony Robbins said. People change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So if where you were was extremely uncomfortable, moving in another direction might be just as uncomfortable, but at least it's change. So again, get clear on the cost of your inaction. If I do nothing, what will my life look like? Will I turn out like the person I envision myself to be? Get clear on the pleasure of the outcome. How will it feel to be free, aligned with who I really am, who I want to be? So again, it's about, Anthony Robbins would say, you change your state on a daily basis, you move, you breathe, you kind of re-energize yourself, you get clear, you decide on one emotional and one material goal, yet then you use your focus and you chunk it down to simple daily habits, which is your Eight of Pentacles energy. And then there's momentum. You take the messy, immediate action. You don't wait to feel ready. You just jump right in, and do what you know has to be done. And the entity is shifting from trying to I am this person. Live it, speak it, that. What does a healthy person look like? What does a person who's in control of themselves look like? You don't have to overdo. You just have to live as you envision yourself and the strongest version of yourself. So again, use that emotional pain, joy as leverage for new decisions. And I know this is kind of an odd little twist on things, but I thought, what would an Egyptian prophet think of this situation, that you were going through? If we were to think of it along that line in terms of, lineage, it's more of a map of destiny. So it's like a spiritual initiation and a universal law that you're kind of having to live out here. So it's like, it's a gateway of inner transformation. And I feel like this is you standing between the scales of Maat and you're choosing harmony over judgment. So it's a trial of your moral balance, your moral compass. What is being weighed here? Like the soul is being weighed against the feather, which is truth, justice, order. Don't resist the balance of your inner scales. This is the time of Maat, where all imbalance must be restored within and without. So the advice is take full responsibility for the current life condition. Almost done, guys. Don't blame. Take conscious ownership of it. Align your thoughts, words, and your deeds, your actions, because your soul can't rise if it's divided. Let go of pride, defensiveness. Your true strength is your inner stillness, which is the Emperor and in harmony with the Justice, and they are together. And then there's also allow yourself to feel grief, joy, and fear. All of these things are sacred currents of humanity. You needed to leave it behind, those burdens emotionally. And again, that's where you can pay attention to your dreams. But there's also water-based rituals that you can do, which would be bathing and, cleansing, salt, cold water, whatever it is for you. But again, it's almost like you're letting go of the false battles. Surrender is not a weakness, it's action. Not everything is your enemy. Some are just mirrors. They're just there as mirrors to show you what was weak within you that you needed to realign to reach your higher self. So release the roles of the identities that you had to be in certain situations of the past, because you no longer belong to burdens of the past. And again, you had the Star card. And the Empress card there too, which is pretty amazing. But again, with that Star card energy, sorry guys, just trying to find our last one. Again, with that star energy, that's still, a divine gift, whether this is artistic, emotional, spiritual, maybe all. But there's some kind of a calling coming in here for you. And again, it's the Knight of Wands that's there, means you're guided by wisdom, not haste. So your mind is the temple. Guard its gates, so you don't bring in the false illusions or fantasies and negativity. The magic is in your focused attention and what you can master. It's what you can build in the unseen, in the mind, which will then become your world in the physical. So choose the path, because there's many choices. You could be tested, your focus will be tested in every one of these if you choose all of them. But choose one path, work on it, practice it, create some discipline around it. When you do something repetitively, with intention, avoid the distractions, that's when you start to feel the flow and things get easier. So there's something here about, you know, they want you to remember who you are, the eternity of your soul. So this month, walk lightly, speak your truth. It's okay to be silent, divine silence. The gate of destiny will open here for you. And this is where you actually start to realign. But that's what I have for you. And I should just mention in terms of the physicality of things, like I said, I wanted to throw in there about that. Just for some of you, it might be relevant. We had the Five of Swords out here. Give me 1 second. So we had the Four of Swords, and then we had the Five of Swords. There it is. Okay, so out here with the Five of Swords, and again, this is the physical depletion, you know, where your immunity is a little bit lower, it's compromised in some way, there could be pain, could be fatigue, but it's more of a chronic condition of neglect to oneself. So emotionally, this is the abandonment wound showing up in your body. I'm outside, I'm unseen, I'm unsupported. You know, this can be blood sugar issues, adrenal issues, poor circulation, you know, feeling isolated, emotional shutdown, things of that sort. So your body is actually teaching you, because it holds your inner story. And what it's really saying here is, have you left yourself out cold? Now, not only that, but we also had the High Priestess that was in here. Oh, here. Empress. Sorry, I think I dropped that card, guys, but that one, the High Priestess, was out here too. Oh, anyway, dropped it. Sorry. But anyway, that was one of the cards that was out here as well. But that one really speaks to, you know, things that are fluctuating around you either way. So again, there's some kind of emotional suppression or repression. There's also emotional sensitivity, and that means it's an indication for inner listening. Like, connect to your body, connect to your body's wisdom, because there's something that's unresolved. Your body is teaching you, you know, in that silence, that's where the answers are. So it's going to be more of a whisper than a direct, you know, hit of sorts. Sorry, guys, just looking for where it was. Sorry, it's at the bottom of my deck. Five of Pentacles with the High Priestess, and then we all had the Seven of Swords. So that was indicating hidden stress, secret behaviors, things that you're not fully acknowledging, but it's, again, overthinking, nervous system overload. It's also, you know, poor sleep habits. It's skipping, you know, food or medication, or carrying too much. It's a risk of burnout, and it's somatic expression of an emotional distrust. So the thing about this is truth heals. So you have to, and able to get out of this, you have to reverse it. So truth heals. Doesn't matter if anybody accepts it. The point is you're saying, I accept myself, and now I'm going to reverse that, so that my body works with me instead of me against my body. So healing that mental energy, being curious, you know, and not to get yourself overstimulated. Again, sleep disturbances are here, anxiety, tension, headaches, inflammation in the body. There's something that's tied to information overload, so attention, things of that sort, especially with the Seven of Cups. But what is it that you're teaching your body? The foods and the thoughts. So again, there's just something here that you're not broken, you are the healer and the healed. So again, there's something there about things being able to change here when you stop abandoning yourself. You know, feel the grief, hear the inner voice, reframe it, and then there's some kind of initiation into physical healing, where you start to live your own truth. Remember, your body is your temple. Don't fight it, feel it. Let it guide you. So your pain is not a mistake. It's a doorway into your awareness. That's what Osho would say. And then it's something here about Tony Robbins would say, you know, get leverage, associate deep pain with staying stuck and joy with breakthroughs. So to your health by changing your identity. I am a radiant, powerful being who honors my body, or whatever you want to say there. So it's not that your body is failing you, it's awakening you. So that's what I would say is the core themes there. But again, you're aligning with some kind of larger purpose, and it's a very concrete, structured thing that you're doing that will have long-term effect, but it does require discipline and a redesign of your ego, because your ego needs to be who you were before. It needs to be let go of or released, because there's something here about identifying more structure in your life, being your own authority, working through farther out sort of energies by creating plan versus control. You know, have the discipline to know when you need to stop and, you know, trying to over control things. You might feel the pressure to hold together, but you need to balance with your inner rest. And you start asking yourself the questions, what does inner strength look like without rigidity? There's an urge here with that Knight of Wands that you move faster than you are. Sorry, I was trying to find, yeah, Knight is moving pretty slow, but it's still a Knight. And so there's something here about, you know, your energy is starting to return. But again, a lot of what you're facing here seems to be around, even in terms of your finances. Your finances are coming a little bit on the slower side here. But I feel like even your relationship to money is emotionally related here. So it's kind of revisioning what success looks like for you. So your challenge would be your financial goals feel far away, but the growth is that faith, trusting in, is forming the blueprint. So that spiritual alignment leads to material resources over time. And again, the tense is healing the extremes of yourself. So even in terms of spending. So it's about doing everything in moderation. There might be fluctuating income and certainly some slower growth there. But I do feel like the Emperor is, you know, the powerful card out, indicating that there's structure, leadership, mastery, something over time that you have. Oh, there was our Knight of Wands, you wanting to be more impatient. But again, it's like, you know, you will be in a position where you will have more authority, especially with that Emperor. In terms of your finances, I think this is you, slow growth, doing things in a methodical way, not wanting to rock the boat. You want to be incremental, do things where you have to do research, that kind of thing, to get ahead. But that's what I feel like is happening this month. You know, it's long-term planning, budgeting, saving, investing, really getting clear on what it is that you want, what you have to leave behind. But again, it's a healing transition. It's not a setback, it's a turning point. So overall, like I said, I feel like the final message is this is about physical healing, financial healing. And it's never just about money, never just about the body. It's about what your mindset is. It's about how you relate to ideas of power, belief, love. It's all of those things that are being expressed and reflected outward as much as inward. So again, it's creating more structure to sort of support the inner world to reflect in the outer world what you want to be, which is revisioning, more focus, more emotional rest. You know, focus versus scattering, patience versus panic, structure versus freedom. What will give you, you know, it's coming through a self-made structure. It's not an external rescue of some sort, but the value versus your worth. So money is not proof of worth. It's the anchor that you need from the inner self before it externally manifests. So take that as it resonates. I don't know if that made a lot of sense. I did a little bit of research and writing some of this down here, so it made more sense, but hopefully that came through. But that's what I have for you, Cancer. Keep moving forward. We'll see you in the next read.